Hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast series for September Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. We're interviewing families who have gone through childhood cancer. Our guest today is Gary Handler, father of Maya. To start off, could you tell us about Maya?
Of course, I'd be happy to. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. I'm honored to be here. Um, wow, Maya was our little angel. Um, we we could tell when she was born that there was something a little different about her. She was an old soul. She had lots of friends, but Maya was kind of the kid that when we would take her over to play dates, she had lots of friends, but she ended up finding herself kind of in the adult room talking with the parents more so than she was talking with the friends. Um, Maya was very strong in her faith. We called her our little God girl. She loved being around church. She loved being around her church friends. She loved music. She loved dancing. She loved participating in all of the school activities and plays that would go on. Um, she was a light. She loved her dog Marley. When Maya was diagnosed with her tumor, with her cancer, the local chapter, our Georgia chapter of Make-A-Wish, presented Maya with a wish, and she could have done anything. She could have, picked a trip across we could have gone to Europe or something, but Maya saw the section on service dogs and wanted a service dog. So we fortunately were able to get her a service dog.
That's really nice.
Yeah, it was great. She was a very, very, very bright kid. She was very compassionate, very giving. Maya was the kind of kid that always asked, was always the first to ask, "How are you doing?" instead of people asking her, "How is she doing?" And it was really interesting, even when she was going through her diagnosis. We would sit in doctor's offices, and before the doctor even had a chance to speak to her and say, "Maya, how are you doing? How are you feeling?" She would ask the doctor, "Hey, how are you doing today? Tell me about
Yeah.
your family."
So, what was the cancer journey like?
The cancer journey?
Yeah.
Sure. Well, to be honest, it was heart-wrenching. Very, very difficult. Maya was our only child. Um, So when we got the diagnosis, it was, first of all, we didn't have any idea what rhabdomyosarcoma even meant. Had never heard of it before. Um, but immediately as a parent, you have a hole in your heart. It was very, very painful to watch her go through all of the treatments and the chemo and the radiation. It is an up and down journey, especially with Maya's cancer, because in the beginning, Maya's diagnosis was a terminal diagnosis, but you can never, ever, ever give up hope. Never, never give up hope. We always were praying for a miracle. We always thought that Maya was going to be the one kid that licked this disease. And she would go through a chemo protocol and it did what it was supposed to do. And the next thing you know, the cancer was quote unquote in remission. And we would just celebrate and think that she was healed. And then unfortunately, a month, 2 months, 3 months later, the cancer would rear its ugly head again, um, and would attack a different part of her body. So it was a roller coaster. Like I said, there were a lot of ups and downs. It was it's to be honest, it's mentally draining because as a parent, you will do anything in your power to find a cure, or you want to find the best hospital. You want to find the best doctor. And there's so much out there to learn, and especially coming from somebody that did not have a medical background, you have to learn and you have to educate yourself on the disease that Maya had and the possible solutions. And it wasn't always one um, that all paths led to one specific treatment or one specific treatment option. A lot of times the doctors gave us, and especially more towards the end when we were looking through clinical trials, they would present two or three different options. And it was up to us to make that decision, which was very difficult. Um, because we just didn't have that medical background to really understand everything. So that's where Dr. Keller really came into be a big, big, big part of our life. But we never let Maya's cancer um, take our smile away. Maya always said, she said, I'm not going to let this steal my joy. And I really feel by not giving up, by keeping hope. And that's what Dr. Keller really did. He gave us so much hope through this process because you really feel like you are fighting this massive battle, which you are, and it can be a very hopeless feeling. But Dr. Keller gave us so much hope. He was so sweet. He was so kind during this. Um, But it was Maya looked at this as an opportunity to show her friends and our community what what her faith did for her and how she navigated this through with her faith. And even though the outcome did not turn out how we wanted, she always had a smile on her face, and she always felt that she was going to be taken care of. And it was very apparent. And she was an inspiration for a lot of people and through our friends and our community. And there was a lot, as sad and as difficult as it was, there was a lot of beauty that exposed itself during this journey. You really see people's compassion. You truly see how much these pediatric oncologists care, that it is really in their heart of hearts to find a cure for your loved one. Um, the generosity that people come up with, whether it's cooking meals or financial. We had a we have a very close friend that owns a private jet, and he gave us full access to the private jet to go do some research and find, are there any doctors that we're not seeing maybe in California or up north or whatever. Um, there was one time where Maya wasn't feeling great, and it was her cousin's wedding. Well, not her cousin. I guess it would have been her uncle's wedding, and she wanted to go. And we jumped on that jet and flew down to Key West and spent a few hours at the wedding and back in the plane and came back to Atlanta. So there is just to see the core of people and how wonderful people can be going through tragedy and this difficult time. We were really swooped up by our community, and even to this day, we still are.
Yeah, I think you have like a really great group of people who are supporting you.
We do. We did at the time of the diagnosis. We did during all of the appointments, during the toughest times. When Maya passed away, there was a group of about a dozen of us that she was at home, and we were all kind of in a circle around her bed and singing songs to her, and it was very difficult. It was very sad for my wife and I, but there was a lot of beauty as well. And that's Maya's legacy today, is how can we live our life with joy going through such a difficult period of time, that we're not going to let the tragedy define who we are today.
Yeah, I really like that. Do you think there's anything you would have done differently? I mean, you really kind of had that hope, and that was really amazing.
Right. Wow, that's a good question. Um, I no, no. I don't think that there was anything that we would have done differently. It's such a difficult time, and you're making such difficult decisions for your child, and the chemotherapy protocols that were being um, advised by the doctors and she was a little girl. She was 14 years old when she was diagnosed, and she was just a small child, thin child, and it was hard on her body. And so what do I think now? Um, if, of course, we followed the first protocol that the doctors recommended, but then after that, there were a couple other times that they gave us some options, and we probably selected the ones that were um, created less um, symptoms, that maybe was going to be a little bit easier on her body. And rhabdomyosarcoma is an awful cancer, and the treatments that were prescribed were difficult treatments. They've got to get in there and kill the disease. So, I've never really thought about that. And was there anything that we would have done differently? And no, but I would say the only thing maybe would have been, um, when we had a choice to make on a specific protocol, that we kind of seemed to lean more towards the one that was going to be easier on her body, and maybe it did not quite have the efficacy as some of the others. But you've got to do what's right for you and your child and your family. So if there's anything that we would have done differently, there's absolutely zero regrets. I can tell you that much.
Yeah. So, how do you think your perspective on childhood cancer or cancer in general changed after all of this?
It stinks. Cancer stinks. Um, we never had anybody in our family that was diagnosed with cancer, so we had never gone through this before. So it was an eye-opening experience. Um, you can be a healthy 14-year-old kid just cruising through life, and then suddenly one day you go to see the doctor, and he gives you some news that changed everybody's lives forever. Um, my perspective on cancer is that I really hope, with everybody else, hope one day that there's going to be a cure. Um, but I have, even in the few years since Maya's passed, talking to Dr. Keller, he's made some tremendous advances towards finding some medications that will work, or work better than they did 5 years ago, when Maya was going through her journey. Um, yeah, my perspective is really, it's a it's a terrible disease. You've got to, yeah, it's a terrible disease. Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought there for a minute. But it can happen to anybody, and but don't ever lose your faith. Don't lose your faith. Don't lose your hope. Because yeah, our outcome did not turn out the way that we wanted it to. But oh my goodness, we met so many kids in the children's hospital that did make it, and that's just because of how these doctors care.
Yeah. So I saw that your family did some fundraising for research in pediatric cancers. So could you tell me a bit about what that was like?
Yeah, it was fun. We did a few fundraisers when Maya was diagnosed. Um, one was a race that she put together. Um, any that raised a nice amount of money. We did some things. We lived in a nice sized neighborhood with about 100 homes in the neighborhood, and Maya was always out there doing something to try to raise some money. Um, yeah, we've done a fair amount of fundraising, not a lot. Our family has definitely donated nice money to childhood cancer. But I know there's always more that we can do, and we've got some really exciting things coming up in the very near future that I'm really excited about. That I think will donate a nice amount of money.
That's great. And speaking of kind of what you just teased, what do you think are the next steps and how are you going to keep honoring Maya?
Well, one of the things that was done is Maya's school, it was a private school, and they actually did a Maya Handler scholarship, and they give away one or two full tuitions every single year to kids that submit an application that exemplify some of the traits that Maya exhibited. So that's something that's very special. I am in the art business, and I own some art galleries. And the very first art gallery that I owned, um, we are 25 years old this month.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And so we are doing some really cool things. Um, Dr. Keller is flying in for the event, and we had asked, I think we've got a dozen artists that are going to be there supporting us for our anniversary event, and all of our clients will be there, and the artists will be there. But we're doing something that's called a paint off, and we're having five of our artists paint live during the event, and at the end, and they get 1 hour to produce a painting. And then throughout the course of the weekend, the whole weekend, we have put together a collection of about 15, 16 other pieces of art that um, are going to be up for donation, and I'm going to be an auctioneer after the paint off. I'm going to get up there and auction off those five pieces live, and then throughout the other 15 pieces or so, we hope to generate. My goal is to raise $100,000.
Good luck. I think that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. Um, and it's always, to honoring Maya, it's how we live our life. It's the decisions that we make, the attitudes that my wife and I still have, how kind we are to people, and we want people to see that in us and ask us, where did you get that smile? Where did you get, where did you get that happy personality? And we're able to talk about Maya. And that's something that's very, very, very special for us. Um, and we are going to continue to do that.
I think that's really admirable.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you would like to share about Maya?
Um, you know, Maya never gave up. She never lost her faith. She never gave up. Um, she always she always had that smile on her face. And I would just say to, other kids that are going through this or other parents that are going through this is don't lose hope. Um, there is good, like I said, our outcome did not turn out the way that we had hoped for, but there are so many blessings that come along this journey. There's so many wonderful things that happen during this journey. It's very, very difficult. Um, but you'll get through it. We got through it. And as Maya's little tagline said, don't steal my joy.
Yeah, I really like that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.